Hey, Dan from Budgeteers here, helping you to get more mouse for your money. Remember to smash that subscribe button and opt in for notifications to know whenever I push out a new video. In the last video, I discussed how to decide if you should buy Genie Plus or not, and in this video, we're going to be talking about individual Lightning Lane purchases and if they are right for you. Individual Lightning Lane passes are for the very popular rides like Rise of the Resistance, Remy, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Flight of Passage, and that's for this kind of window of the year. Other times of the year, you might also see things like Space Mountain, Frozen Ever After, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and Expedition Everest that are going to be on the individual Lightning Lane option. So that's the first thing to consider. Look at which rides are going to be individual Lightning Lanes and which ones are not to determine whether or not you want to just stick with Genie Plus or go with individual Lightning Lanes or do both. Because remember, you have to do both if you want to get like a fast pass for Rise of the Resistance and a fast pass for Smuggler's Run, for example, because one doesn't get you the other. You can buy a $15 Rise of the Resistance Lightning Lane and still have to get the $15 Genie Plus if you want the other rides at Hollywood Studios. So it could be up to $30 per person per day, depending on how much you're willing to spend on these extra add-ons to your trip. But if you do have the opportunity to purchase one of these individual Lightning Lanes, it may very well be worth it to you. But one thing to consider is if you're staying off grounds, you may not have the opportunity at all to get one of these passes. I stayed off grounds my last trip, beginning of March, and every single day I tried to get an individual Lightning Lane pass, and every single day I failed. Why? Because if you're staying on grounds, you get to start picking them at 7 a.m., and if you're staying off grounds, you only get to pick an individual Lightning Lane pass starting at the park open time. So you'll see the time just advance. Okay, this is this window, this one. You see the windows advancing, but then once it hits park open, they just get swept up like that. And I was never able to get a single individual Lightning Lane pass for my entire stay. It is what it is. It's cheaper for me to stay off grounds. I choose to do that, so I give up the opportunity to do the things that are available to those staying on grounds. And you might consider if you're staying off grounds, you might just want to consider, okay, get to a park early and see if you can get on the ride as one of the first, but also remember that sometimes they open the parks earlier for people staying on grounds, so not only do they have the opportunity to get the individual fast passes starting at 7, they might be able to start waiting in the standby lines before you as well. So more things to consider if you're staying off grounds, and how to consider whether or not to try to get the individual Lightning Lane or to determine whether or not you want to stay off grounds to begin with. If the getting on those particular rides quickly is important to you. But if you are staying on grounds and you have the ability to get the individual Lightning Lane passes, you might want to look at what the average wait times are for the rides, because you might, say, okay, maybe the average times for these particular rides that the individual Lightning Lane rides are for, maybe I can deal with waiting that long. And if that's cool, then don't pay extra. Then you're cool waiting that long. Or maybe you see, oh, these lines are ridiculously long, and I don't want to spend that amount of time waiting in line for a ride, so it'll be worth it for me if I can afford it to go ahead and pay the extra money per person. So Rise of the Resistance, for example, at many times when I was there, was a 2+ hour wait more than what you might wait in the individual Lightning Lane for. So if you're a family of 4 and staying on grounds, you might want to get that pass, but it is going to cost you $60 extra that day for all 4 of you to go on Rise of the Resistance. But what you're paying is basically $7.50 per person per hour to be able to get 2 hours in other areas of the park. Can you afford that? That's up to your budget. Is it worth it to you? That's up to your opinion on how you feel waiting in line is worth. Maybe you're able to get Remy at $9 a person. Is that worth it? Again, it's a much simpler formula than the Genie Plus formula is, because the Genie Plus formula, you have many different options, and whether or not you can get only 1 in a day or 5 in a day, it's a much more difficult calculus than deciding whether or not one pass is worth it to you. So you're going to have to make that decision for yourself. When we went, though, again, we didn't get the individual Lightning Lane pass for Rise of the Resistance. And there was a technical issue. Instead of getting on a line, we just kind of stayed there. We ended up staying in line for Rise of the Resistance for about 4 hours before we were able to get on the ride and enjoy it. And let me tell you, we enjoyed it. So some of these new rides are worth the wait. I mean, I don't know if I'd wait 4 hours again for the ride, but some of these new rides are absolutely, they're so good, they're so well done, that if you can't afford to get the individual Lightning Lane pass, or you're unable to get it because you're staying off rounds, I still recommend you making sure that you get on these rides to try them out, because they're really that good. I mean, we stepped into part of the ride in Rise of the Resistance and just like, wow, that's amazing. So look, don't think to yourself that you're not going to have a good time at Disney World because you can't afford to get these passes, or that you don't even have the opportunity to get them because you're staying off grounds. You're going to enjoy yourself on these rides. They're fun rides. But the decision as to whether or not is really up to you on this one. It's, can you get it and can you afford it? And it's as simple as that. I try to get one every day because I think it would have been worth it. I would have much rather have spent a half an hour in the Rise of the Resistance Lightning Lane and get to doing other things than waiting 4 hours. That would have absolutely been worth it for me. But for you, assume no breakdown. Rise of the Resistance does break down a bunch. I saw that happening a lot. I don't know, they haven't gotten all the kinks out yet, but if it's not worth for you to pay that money, or you can't afford to pay that money, still ride it at least once. But at the end of the day, much simpler decision. Can you afford it? Do you have access to it? Is it worth it? Those are 3 things you have to decide. If all of those are yes, then go ahead and buy it. If they're not, then don't. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please remember to like and share it with your friends if you do, and subscribe to the channel, and have a magical day.